The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
I'm here enjoying a nice day at the beach with my kids, and I turn around. I got these flags planted here on the beach by these MAGA. Listen, this is all America. We know you didn't storm the beaches to stake out your territory on the beach. This isn't the moon. I get it. This is America. But I'm sick of my flag being represented by white nationalist trash on a goddamn beach. Go f*** yourselves.
Lighten up, Francis. All right. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hey, I wanted to start with that clip. Ironically, I saw it on Instagram yesterday, and it reminded me of something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. And anyway, so that's some dude in Florida, and he's like having a hissy fit about the American flag being planted at the beach. Now, again, it's not shown who planted the American flag, but literally it's just a American flag planted at the beach. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. So this guy took it upon himself to like film a video basically saying, I'm tired of these. First of all, anyone who pronounces it MAGA, you obviously don't even know it well enough to pronounce it correctly. It's pronounced MAGA. But anyway, he took it upon himself to film this video where he's basically just saying, I'm sick of the American flag being used by MAGA. But again, I mean, who knows who planted that thing there? And at the end of the day, it's just the American flag. It should be planted at the beach. It should be planted at every beach for that matter. But anyway, it reminded me of something that I wanted to talk about actually. And this is pretty interesting. And I noticed it the other day when I was running. So I was running the other day and, I noticed this like big pickup truck and it had like two American flags kind of mounted on the back. And, I thought to myself, it's so interesting. Like we have gotten so divided. And quite frankly, I feel like the country has gone through such a polarizing situation that, for example, that dude driving down the street with two American flags, again, sticking up from his car, he's probably viewed as some ridiculous white supremacist. And he might be. I don't know. I couldn't see the driver. But what I'm saying is, isn't it interesting that we are at a point where if somebody has the American flag either up in the front of their house, on their car, at the beach, or whatever, it's almost like they're classified in in the MAGA category, or I mean, to keep it real, they're classified as like a Trump supporter for advocating or hoisting the American flag. Isn't that interesting? I really do think that's interesting. Even around my neighborhood, it's like there's a few homes that have the American flag hanging. And whereas, 6, 8, 10 years ago, that would have been viewed incredibly positively. I think everybody that would walk by would be like, oh, that's cool. They've got the American flag up. And now it's crazy that if you are proud of the American flag, or like I said, you're hoisting the American flag or showing the American flag at your home, on your car, at the beach, or whatever, you're kind of put into a different category. That's pretty strange to me. That really is. It's like, wait a minute, why does that mean, like, if a black guy is waving the American flag, or a Mexican guy is waving the American flag, or a Persian guy like myself is waving the American flag, I should not be thought of negatively. We should all be thought of positively. It's the American flag, and it's It's the symbol of the United States, where if you live in the United States, again, obviously there's issues in the United States like everywhere else, but I just find it super interesting how advocating and representing with the American flag has taken on, I don't want to say a negative connotation, although to some people it is a negative connotation because it denotes you being in, I mean, seriously, to keep it real, it denotes you being in the Trump camp, which, goddamn, that's like, how crazy is it that those people that think that have basically given Trump the authority over the American flag? Like, don't give him that much credit. That's actually you're doing a disservice to your country by giving him that much credit. That like, okay, hey, you own the American flag. No, he doesn't. He does not. You do not have to be a Trump supporter or a Trump hater to still love the American flag, you know? It's interesting. It's an interesting little dichotomy right now that is taking place. And again, if anybody thinks I'm wrong with that, let me know. But I'm telling you, for some reason, and again, maybe it's a California thing. Maybe because California is really such a liberal and, I don't know, in many ways goofy place to live, although the weather is great. Maybe this feeling doesn't apply in the Midwest. I'd actually love to hear from people on this. Like, I'd love to hear if when you see an American flag hanging off a car or hanging from someone's house, how do you view that these days? Do you automatically think Trump? Do you automatically think right-wing MAGA, Republican, crazy that side? Or do you think, oh, hey, super cool, there's a fellow patriot who loves America? Even the term patriot, besides when you're talking about the New England Patriots, even that term has taken on a slightly different connotation. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally off in this. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on that. All right, moving on. All right, so the biggest news, let me get you up to speed on a couple pieces of big news in case you are one of those people whom I talk to and I say, did you hear about this? And they're like, no, I don't listen to the news. And that's when I say, okay, no worries, don't do that, but listen to the DSD, and I'll keep you abreast of the things you need to know. But anyway, probably the biggest piece of news was the Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi. In Farsi, it's pronounced Raisi, which actually literally means like boss. It's pretty funny. Dude's last name means boss, and he's the president, which is kind of the boss. Well, not anymore because he's dead. So his helicopter went down, total like Kobe vibes, RIP 8/24. But his helicopter went down on Sunday night, and he, along with a few other people, have been declared dead. And so the president of Iran, I mean, this is a big deal. This is like the number 2 guy in charge of Iran. So the way Iran's political system works is there is a elected, I shudder to say the word democratically elected, but there's an elected president, and that was Raisi. And that guy is pretty much like the day-to-day CEO, so to speak, of Iran. So he's like running the country day to day. And then above him sits what they call the supreme leader. And the supreme leader is like the figurehead, more of a religious connotation, but also obviously has tremendous power and at the end of the day is supposed to be the one calling the ultimate shot. So think of him as like the chairman of the board. And then Raisi was the president, so he's like the CEO of the country. So anyway, I mean, the fact that guy is dead, I mean, is kind of a big deal. Now, here's what's interesting, and this might not surprise some of you, but obviously a lot of thoughts along this line, and I'm going to introduce a guy named Greg Stoker, former high-level Marine and definitely somebody that was in the U.S. military system for a long time. And man, this guy drops some nuggies. He drops some nuggies. Very, very outspoken guy, very articulate. Ironically, when you look at him, he looks like Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam, so you wouldn't think it, but yeah, he drops some interesting stuff. So I'm gonna play what he said in a minute because I think it needs to be heard, because obviously it was literally the first thing I thought when this happened. But then another narrative that is not even a narrative, another rumor or potential that's going around about Raisi's helicopter, which, by the way, I don't believe it just well, I mean, I guess it could be an accident. It could have been an accident, but I don't really believe that, because there were 3 helicopters basically doing the same mission. 2 of them arrived safely and his didn't. Again, though, I mean, things happen, so it absolutely could have been an accident, but I don't know. I think there was something wicked taking place. Now, I'm going to play Greg's thing in a second, but what I was going to say was that, so the supreme leader, this guy, Ali Khamenei, by the way, that's another thing. In Farsi, we have the ability to pronounce, it's like a KH. Oh my God, I'm sorry for your eardrums on that. But Khamenei, and most people would just say Khomeini. But it's also not to be confused with the Ayatollah Khomeini, which was that dude back in the 80s, which I would pronounce Khomeini. I don't know if like the harsh nature of the K and H together, which again, only Persian people seem to be able to enunciate those syllables. But anyway, this Khamenei guy, you've probably seen him, you'd recognize him. So there's a rumor that his son was the one that basically wants to rise and become president and take over the presidency to then eventually take over his dad's job of the supreme leader. And so Raisi was the guy slated to take over the supreme leader job. And so there is a rumor mill in Iran among like Iranian news, which my source of Iranian news is my mom. I ask her, I'm like, all right, what are they saying? What are they saying? Because I don't really watch Iranian news TV. I just get that info from my mom. But she basically was telling me how a lot of them are thinking that it was the son who orchestrated this, and it's basically setting up the stage for succession for him. So, I mean, I could totally buy that, by the way. I could totally buy that. But then here's Greg's take.
The death of the Iranian president and other senior ministers has sparked some wild speculation, which is understandable given the massive spike in global instability since the genocide began in October. Could the Mossad and potentially the CIA be involved in downing the helicopter transporting the Iranian president? Is it linked to the attempted assassination of the Slovakian PM? Does it have anything to do with Zelensky's presidential term? And what about the spy bases in Azerbaijan?
All right, so that was a lot, and he kind of said it fast. But basically, the main thing about it was, there's a lot of rumors saying that the CIA, the American CIA and the Israeli Mossad kind of conspired together in order to do this. Now, again, I mean, that's not crazy. I mean, honestly, that's the first thing I thought when I heard it. And if you think about it, if you remember a couple weeks ago, Iran did fire, 12,000, not 12,000, I'm just kidding, 300 missiles, drones, whatever. None of them that got through, but they did retaliate against Israel. So, obviously it's natural to have come to this conclusion that Israel plus potentially the United States could be behind it. I don't know, but it's plausible. It's plausible.
Oh, my science, we're going to have to apply Occam's razor to this thing right now, i.e. the philosophical problem-solving principle that recommends searching for explanations constructed with the smallest possible set of elements.
I had to ask ChatGPT what Occam's razor was, and ChatGPT said, Occam's razor is a philosophical principle that suggests the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. It's often stated as entities should not be multiplied beyond necessity. Basically, it's saying like the most obvious answer is the answer. So again, that would have been the most obvious answer.
So the Dismar Forest, a mountainous region known for its mist and violent weather patterns, an old aircraft, inexperienced pilot, meteorological problems, that's how most aircraft crashes happen. Furthermore, what would Israel gain from this? The U.S. doesn't want to escalate, Iran doesn't want to escalate, and has anything Israel done up until this point delivered anything of substance strategically? They function purely out of ego for the most part, pseudo power moves, etc. So we have to wait and see. Rationally speaking, this would be suicide for Israel, but what is the gain? Governmental instability at a critical moment in Iran? Not really. The function of the Iranian government will roll on. And remember, during the Iran-Iraq war, both the president and 72 ministers were assassinated, so there's a strong precedent for administrative resiliency.
Damn, Iranian government back in the day doing a deep shallow dive of resiliency before there even was a deep shallow dive.
That being said, the government would want to keep this hush-hush if there was foul play involved, at least for the first couple of weeks, in order to manage civil unrest while officials were being shuffled around, promoted, and retasked. And remember, if it was foul play, Ebrahim Butcher of Tehran Raisi has more enemies than just the Israeli intelligence apparatus.
That's actually a good point as well. So that dude, Raisi, his nickname was the Butcher of Tehran. He wasn't a good dude. So, like, this is definitely not a loss for humanity. I'll tell you that. So, the bigger question is just, really, was there foul play and who would be responsible, or was it just a karma accident?
Whatever information is released or suppressed, it is not in Iran's interest to visibly escalate with any regional players. Plus, Khomeini is still kicking, so Iran's foreign and nuclear policy won't shift in any significant way. So chill with the World War III talk, at least until the next catastrophe. Helicopters sometimes crash, and some people will definitely blame the helicopter crash on Western sanctions, which isn't entirely invalid. So there's that. Cheers until we know more.
That was a pretty good balanced take that covered a variety of things. So that was interesting. All right. Thanks, Greg Stoker. Next up, the second piece of biggest news that took place on basically yesterday.
Dramatic announcement from the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court that he is seeking arrest warrants against Benjamin Netanyahu, Yoav Gallant, who's the Israeli defense minister, Yahya Sinwar, Hamas's leader in Gaza, Mohammed Daif, who is the military commander for Hamas, and Ismail Haniyeh, who's the political leader who is based in Qatar.
All right, so that was Sky News. Basically, so the ICC, now remember, there's the ICJ, which is the International Court of Justice, which basically prosecutes countries. So that was what Israel was brought up on charges of genocide by South Africa and then a few other nations. And then the ICC, the International Criminal Court, that goes after individuals. So basically, the chief prosecutor of the ICC has initiated charges, or actually initiated the desire for an arrest warrant basically against Netanyahu, his top minister of defense, this Gallant guy, and then the three top Hamas guys. So Yahya Sinwar, which we've talked about before on this show, and then two other dudes. And so, again, I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's obviously not a good look. And it's definitely something that is embarrassing to Netanyahu. First of all, to be grouped with the three Hamas folks that obviously he and everyone else, loves to refer to as like the ultimate terrorists and all that. Well, now, you're grouped with those guys. So the five of them, I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm actually very glad they did them all together. I think that's the right move. I mean, again, I've shared before, the Hamas stuff is weird to me. It's just, it seems very fabricated and manipulated. And I think those guys are bad dudes. Like, I think they are bad dudes. I really do. I think they are, surprisingly, it doesn't take a lot of people to implement bad plans. It really doesn't. And so, I could see those guys on the take with the folks that are giving them the take. So anyway, this is a developing story. It's definitely kind of a big deal in terms of just the optics of it. Now we'll see what actually ends up happening in terms of this prosecution moving forward and arrest warrants being issued or whatever. I mean, I don't really see them eventually being arrested. Not Netanyahu. I can't see that. I just can't see that. The Hamas guys I could see. I could see them figuring out a way to put those guys in jail, but I just don't see it happening to Netanyahu. That guy's too insulated. He's too connected. He's too, I don't know, man. He's in the mix too much to have that even happen. But I'm going to leave you with this. I thought the timing of that was pretty weird too. Like with the Iranian, and again, I might be grasping at straws here, but with the Iranian president being dead, being unalived, as they say, with his helicopter accident, and then this coming out right after. I don't know. I'm trying to piece that together a little, but I did find the timing of that slightly interesting, for lack of a better way to put it. All right, so basically with that, what happens next is this request for arrest warrants goes to a panel of judges from the ICC. So anyway, developing story. It should be on your radar because between that and the Iranian president's helicopter crash, those are the two biggest pieces of news over the past few days. All right. Hey, by the way, one quick update from yesterday. My crack research team. I've talked about my crack research team before. These guys keep me honest. They keep me on my toes. They fact check me and they fill in the gaps. Well, one member of that crack research team let me know yesterday that the person they were talking about, Dave Smith was talking about in the Tucker piece as being Hillary Clinton's best friend, whose husband also was like a sex fiend. What is it? What's the word I'm looking for? Oh my God. Totally blanking. Anyway, it's Anthony Weiner's wife. Remember that dude, Anthony Weiner, the dude who sent DICK pics to underage kids and stuff? Her name is Huma Abedin, Abedin. I think she was Hillary Clinton's assistant. But then, yeah, Anthony Weiner. By the way, could there be a more ironic name and then what that person did than Anthony Weiner? That's ridiculous. It's almost like the dude was destined by fate to do that. So anyway, her name was Huma Abedin. She divorced the Weiner, and now she is linked to Alexander Soros, George Soros's kid. George Soros being the multi-billionaire whom is at the heart of a lot of internet chatter in terms of a lot of crazy stuff over the past 4 years. So she's dating his son, Alexander Soros. Bro is in line to inherit a lot of cash. So I think Huma Abedin knows what she's doing. She is climbing the corporate ladder, literally and potentially figuratively. Although maybe that's not a ladder. Might be like just a stool. Alrighty, let's keep calling a spade. Let's keep our feet on the ground, reaching for the stars. I've said that one before. Casey Kasem, RIP. All right, that's it, everybody. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.
The ending was terrific.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.